You will hear a conversation between a woman and the receptionist of the Somerton Childcare Centre. Now, answer all questions from 1 to 10.
Good morning. You've reached Somerton Childcare Centre. This is Sarah speaking. How can I assist you today?
Hi, Sarah. I'm planning to visit your center with my children next weekend, and I'd like to get some information about your facilities and activities.
Of course, I'd be happy to help. First, let me give you our location. We're on North Hill, right opposite the supermarket. Oh, wait. Sorry about that. That's our old location. We're now opposite the toy factory, just down the road.
Got it. Is parking available there?
Absolutely. There's plenty of parking available, both in front of the center and in the overflow lot around the corner. You'll find it much easier than the old location, which had limited space.
That's a relief. What about entry fees?
Entry is actually free for everyone, and to make it even better, adults receive a complimentary drink. Some people think it's only coffee, but we offer tea, water, and even juice as options.
That's generous. Are there any new features or attractions at your center?
Oh yes, we've added a lot recently. There's a large slide, which we call the Wildcat. It's quite popular. It's bigger and steeper than our older slides, so it's a real hit. Then, we've introduced a mini golf area for children, complete with 5 themed courses.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Are there any other play areas?
Well, we still have the jungle gym and the arts and crafts corner, but those aren't new. There's also a sand pit, but it's currently under renovation. The slide and the golf courses are the main attractions we're highlighting this year.
Great. Are there any special requirements for kids who want to participate?
Yes, there are a few. First, all children must wear trousers. This is mainly for safety during activities like sliding or climbing. Shorts just aren't suitable.
Okay, that's good to know.
Oh, and every child must also wear socks. This is particularly important for the indoor play zones, as we don't allow barefoot play for hygiene reasons.
Got it. Anything else we need to prepare?
Yes, you'll need to bring a label with each child's name on it. We can provide labels at the center if you forget, but it's easier if you come prepared.
Sure, I can manage that. By the way, I'm also thinking of organizing a birthday party for my son. Do you have any packages for that?
Absolutely. Our birthday party packages are very popular. To book a party, you'll need at least 8 children. That's the minimum number of participants.
And what's included in the package?
The basic package includes food, drinks, and decorations. You can also add optional extras, like a cake or entertainment, say, a magician or a clown, for an additional fee.
That sounds nice. Do you cater for dietary restrictions?
Yes, we do. We have vegetarian and gluten-free options, and we can customize the menu further if needed. Just let us know in advance so we can make the necessary arrangements.
Perfect. Are there any discounts if we book early?
Actually, yes. If you book at least 2 weeks in advance, you'll get a 10% discount on the total package price. That applies to all parties booked for weekends.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much for the detailed information.
You're welcome. Feel free to call back if you have any more questions, or you can visit our website for more details.
Will do. Thanks again.
Hello, and welcome to today's talk. Here with me is the famous botanist, Professor Alison Downing. So, Alison, tell us something about cocoa beans.
Cocoa beans, also called cacao beans, are the primary constituent in making chocolate. Grown in tropical areas in South and Central America, West Africa, and Asia, the cocoa tree is often raised on small family-owned farms. When the harvested pods are opened to expose the beans, the pulp and cocoa seeds are removed and the rind is discarded. The pulp and seeds are then piled in heaps, placed in bins or laid out on grates for several days. During this time, the seeds and pulp undergo a process called sweating, where the thick pulp liquefies as it ferments. The fermented pulp trickles away, leaving cocoa seeds behind to be collected. This is when the beans are harvested, and then the bags holding them are ready to be transported. But the most important step in processing the cocoa bean is cleaning it. Once the beans are unloaded from the railroad cars, the packages are opened and then weighed by machines. Then the pods are split and the seeds or beans are covered with a sweet white pulp or mucilage. On arrival at the factory, the cocoa beans are sorted and put in a hopper to be cleaned more rigorously. The wet beans are then transported to a facility so they can be fermented and dried. They are fermented for 4 to 7 days and must be mixed every 2 days. They are dried for 5 to 14 days, depending on the climate conditions. The fermented beans are dried by spreading them out over a large surface and constantly raking them. Then the beans are ready to be roasted. Now, roasting takes place at a high temperature, and then the beans are boiled in a heated chamber. During the roasting process, the beans will be expanded and cracked. But prior to this, the beans are trodden and shuffled about using bare human feet. During this process, red clay mixed with water is sprinkled over the beans to obtain a finer colour, polish and protection against moulds during shipment to factories in the United States, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom and other countries. Now, back to what I was saying. After the beans are cracked, they need to be cooled. Then the roasted beans are sealed in pockets. Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
Wow, that is not a simple process, is it? But someone told me that different roasting levels of coffee can lead to different kinds of flavors.
Yes, roasting coffee transforms the chemical and physical properties of green coffee beans into roasted coffee products. The roasting process is what produces the characteristic flavor of coffee by causing the green coffee beans to change in taste. Unroasted beans contain similar, if not higher levels of acids, protein, sugars and caffeine as those that have been roasted, but lack the taste of roasted coffee beans due to the Maillard and other chemical reactions that occur during roasting. The vast majority of coffee is roasted commercially on a large scale, but small-scale commercial roasting has grown significantly with the trend toward single-origin coffees served at specialty shops. Some coffee drinkers even roast coffee at home as a hobby in order to both experiment with the flavor profile of the beans and ensure the freshest possible roast. So here, I'm going to introduce some of these roasted coffee beans and their special flavors. Now, the first crack is lighter bodied and has a higher acidity level with no obvious roast flavor and is popular for its special mild taste. This level of roast is ideal for tasting the full original character of the coffee. The green beans are raw, unroasted coffee beans. They are strictly hard beans with a smoky flavour and are slightly acidic. We've also got French roast, and the flavour that comes across in French roast coffee usually has more to do with the roasting process than the actual quality of the beans. By the time the beans are dark enough to qualify as French, most of their original flavour has dissipated. In its place come the flavours of caramelizing sugar, bittersweet coffee, and often a bit of chocolate. And finally, espresso smoky. That is, coffee brewed by forcing a small amount of nearly boiling water under pressure through finely ground coffee beans. Espresso is generally thicker than coffee brewed through other methods, has a higher concentration of suspended and dissolved solids, and has creamer on top. As a result of the pressurized brewing process, the flavors and chemicals in a typical cup of espresso are very concentrated. Espresso is also the base for other drinks, such as cafe latte, cappuccino, cafe macchiato, cafe mocha, flat white, or
As
cafe
you know,
americano.
we've got to decide on the best ways this university can reduce its waste. You inspected the eastern campus, and I did the western buildings. Did you do all the interviews as well?
Yes, I interviewed all the staff, who made some good observations, and I interviewed some of the students. The students said little that was interesting. They don't seem to care that much. It was the cleaners, surprisingly, who revealed the most relevant facts.
That's not surprising to me. They empty all the bins, so they see the waste firsthand, whereas the staff just throw things away without thinking. What item was most commonly disposed of?
Well, it really depended on where I interviewed. In the cafeteria precinct, obviously paper plates and cups were thrown away all over the place. There was almost no attempt at recycling. However, across the university in general, it was paper copying that filled up most bins, far more than plastic or other forms of waste.
Do people care about this, then?
Well, some do, if you can believe them. I must have interviewed about 30% of customers in the cafeteria, and the results were mixed. Out of all the people I interviewed, well over half, maybe about 55% of them, were quite honest about it, telling me that they had little concern. The other fraction, 45%, were more troubled.
Yes, but do they do anything about it?
Surprisingly, quite a significant percentage do something, even if they aren't particularly concerned. I mean, small things. About 10% bring their own cups to the cafeteria, for example, and at least 1/3 said they use recycling bins. So, in total, it's an equal split between those who do something or those who don't.
So why do so many people remain inactive, particularly over an issue they should care about more?
I think they do care, and many of them are prepared to do something. Obviously, there's an element of laziness, but I'd say that it's relatively small. If they knew what to do, and if stringent systems existed, or if the importance of this was made clearer to them, I'm sure you'd see a much larger percentage of people actively working towards helping our environment.
Well, there's cause for optimism at least.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
Clearly then, there's a significant waste of paper here at this university, so I've worked out one practical suggestion which could help reduce it, specifically the waste from the excess photocopying.
Let me hear it then.
Obviously, for a start, we've got to ensure that people, including the staff, without exception, copy both sides of a page. We can't tolerate single-sided copying. It's just far too wasteful.
Absolutely. Just more trees being chopped down.
But as people are doing copying, there may be adjustments and practice copying, producing single-sided copies or blank pages not wanted and not intended for use. These need to be deposited into a tray for intended recycling. You know, for recopying onto the blank side of the page.
But people don't usually do that. I'm afraid it's just human nature. No matter how unimportant the copying is, they prefer to use fresh paper.
Yeah, I agree with you, which is why you need to display these papers right in front of everyone with a clear sign, "Please reuse," to make it easy for them to do so.
They still won't do it.
I know. That's why you take some of these papers and regularly stack them inside the copier in a special tray once a day, say in the morning.
Well, that's getting better, making it easier for them to use the paper. But still, I'm afraid many won't.
That's why you allow everyone to select this tray when copying. You distribute numbers or codes to every person, giving them special access to this recycling tray. Every time they use papers from this, it's tallied up to their account.
I know I'm sounding a bit negative, or even cynical here, But why should they bother using that tray?
Because the person who does the most copying from this recycling tray gets, say, a cinema pass or lottery ticket or some other sort of reward.
Oh, right. Now that's a system which might just work. Let's trial it in the office and see what happens.
Today I'm going to talk about what may be a new concept to you, the movement of people with their herds of animals from place to place. This is known as transhumans. These peoples are pastoralists, and their animals include cows, sheep, goats, horses, camels, and reindeer. Now, researchers sometimes make a distinction between two types of transhumans, fixed and nomadic, and talk about various factors which differentiate between them. The first and most important distinction they make is to do with the climate. Fixed transhumance occurs in countries such as Switzerland, where seasons are predictable in terms of weather and timing. Nomadic transhumance, on the other hand, is generally practiced in areas where climatic conditions are difficult to predict. An example of such a location is Somalia, as the anticipated rains often just don't appear. Secondly, researchers sometimes look at the type of journey that pastoralists make, their movement. For fixed transhumans, the pattern is sometimes known as vertical because it typically consists of a journey from lower ground in the winter season to higher ground in the summer, and vice versa. In the wild, of course, animals frequently follow these kinds of migration patterns themselves. Nomadic transhumance generally takes place over a longer distance, and it's far more complex. The actual pattern varies from year to year, and it's determined primarily by the animal's needs for grass and also for water. Another distinction is sometimes made in terms of homes. In the case of fixed transhumance, the group will typically have permanent homes in the valley and a shelter which is semi-permanent in the mountains, such as a cabin, to offer some protection from the weather. In nomadic transhumance, however, the pastoralists always live in temporary shelters, which are transported by their livestock from place to place, and are usually light and portable. In northern Kenya, for example, the Gabra pastoralist carries the frame of his home on his camel, and then covers it with branches when he stops for the night. A fourth factor often mentioned is the number of people taking part. In the case of fixed transhumance, only the people who actually look after the herds travel. These are normally the young ones because they can withstand adverse physical conditions more easily. By contrast, in nomadic transhumance, the whole group moves with their livestock. The last points of comparison often made by researchers are diet and goods. In fixed transhumance, those who do not move from the valleys often start working as farmers, cultivating the land. They build up contacts with other communities, and in some cases, they may also trade animals for grain. In nomadic transhumance, there are fewer contacts. The group are generally regarded as providers of all their own needs, and they obtain food such as cheese and meat and also their clothing from their herds. Another example is found in Algeria in North Africa. To see how far this model applies to transhumance there, fixed transhumance from valley to mountain pastures is common in the area. But some recent pastoralists also take their herds on longer journeys at the end of spring, from the Sahara in the south to the plains in the north, where there is more abundant rainfall. They have traditionally assisted local farmers with the harvest, which takes place while they are temporarily a resident there. We have to decide whether their move would fall within the category of fixed or nomadic transhumance. It is true they live in tents, and these are movable and temporary right through the year, whether they are in the Sahara or in the north of Algeria. So, in considering their homes, they appear nomadic. On the other hand, in relation to their patterns of movement, they do not. They drive their livestock through the same passes and mountains each year, which suggests fixed transhumance. Here, in fact, we have a case showing some features of both types of transhumance, which we might more precisely refer to as intermediate. This all goes to show that you should treat every theory with great care, and not force your case history into a model if it doesn't fit.